Look at it. Oh, would you look at that? Would you just look at it? And it's not even scale? What? That's right, today we're looking at this magnificent K-line offering of the famous Southern Pacific GS-4 number 4449. And for the first time on this channel, we're also going to look at its matching passenger cars, because they're equally impressive. Now normally I do a bit of history on the locomotive before diving into the model, but I'd imagine most of you are familiar with this icon of the West. There's a great story on how this engine dodged the scrapper's torch, survived on display outdoors for 20 years, was restored to carry the Freedom Train, went on to have a wonderful career doing excursion services all over the US, and now it calls the Oregon Rail Heritage Center home, and hopefully it'll come out again someday. Hailing from the late 90s, this K-line built Daylight can operate on tighter O-gauge curves thanks to its shorter wheelbase granted to it by its slightly smaller size. Again, this isn't a 1/48th scale model. It's more in line with traditional semi-scale that you'll find with starter sets and some Lion Chief engines, which means it won't dwarf a collection like that. Think of this like a Lion Master. But this has opening doors and cab hatches, chrome handrails along the body, intricate lamp housings on the tender, and the bell hanging under the smoke box just like the real one. It really is a fantastic representation of the real thing while still keeping the size down so anyone could enjoy it on their layout, big or small. Most of the other scaled down versions of the Daylight have far less detail and are more toy-like, which is fine if that's what you're going for. For us, having nicer details is a big plus, and this thing delivers in that department in spades. I would argue that this is the best looking, best proportioned semi-scale offering of the Daylight ever made. And I'd fight anyone who disagrees with me. She's beautiful. These Madison passenger cars are equally impressive with rubber vestibules and opening doors, metal grab handles, detailed interiors with passengers, and operating die-cast couplers on six-wheel trucks. The observation car at the end even has a lit Southern Pacific logo along with two detailed signal lamps. These pair perfectly with the GS-4 in size and color, which is an important detail I almost overlooked. Most O-gauge examples of the Daylight have a brighter red and orange tone in the paint, whereas this K-line model is a bit more muted. So if you're a stickler for things matching like I am, you'll want to track down the matching K-line passenger cars for this engine. It's really an impressive set when complete, and it's currently my favorite looking passenger train to run. Now I've talked a lot about how this engine looks, and that's because the rest starts to slide off a bit and show its age. Aside from the fact that I purchased my engine slightly damaged, which you might have seen that video already, I wish this thing was as nice to run as it was to look at. It's using an older Lionel TMCC board with rail sounds, which does allow it to be used by any modern Lionel command system, but the sound set on this thing is kind of underwhelming. The bell is nice, with a taper when you turn it off. The chuff sound is alright, the whistle's kinda weird, and the crew talk and tower comm are probably the worst I have heard of any of the older TMCC engines, and I've heard a lot of them. On top of that, it's got wonky speed control that doesn't like to really hold a consistent speed. Everything is all lubricated well and it seems to run strong on straights. Maybe it's just tired. After all, it is about 30 years old at this point. Originally, when I got this engine, it came with some pretty weak looking halogen bulbs up front for the lights. And I figured that's no good for an engine called the Daylight, so I upgraded them all to LED. And there's 5 lights in the nose alone. 1 for each marker board, 1 for the main headlight, and 2 that alternate for the Mars light up front. I am so glad I went to the trouble to upgrade these, as this thing is awesome to see, especially now when we're running our night train sessions. If you look past the older controls and sounds, you'll find yourself smiling ear to ear whenever you run this Daylight around your layout, especially if you have sharper turns like we do here on the second-hand overland. I'll say it again, this is the best looking semi-scale offering of the Daylight by a long shot. Electronic upgrades and overhauls could probably make it even better if you wanted to, but the killer combo of looking great while still being small and flexible enough to run no matter the curve radius is a big win. I personally think any famous engine in operation today should have an offering like that. Kids and adults alike enjoy seeing famous engines like this all across the US. They should be able to go out and buy one to run at home regardless of how fancy or simple their layout is, but that's a discussion for another time. Not only am I over the moon about the daylight, but I'm especially pleased with how it got to this point with it. Every aspect of getting this engine here was helped in some way with people in the O-Gauge community. Trains of Lark helped me track this one down. Sid's Trains, B&R Railroad, and Notch 8 Trains all helped troubleshoot different electronic issues I initially had with it. And Optimus tipped off PGH Train Fanatic, who helped me get these matching passenger cars. So this daylight really showed me the bright side of this amazing community. Thank you to everyone for your help and support. If you've got more questions about this engine, I am happy to answer, so leave a comment. If you're new to Datafied, please subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this. There are more reviews we've done before, so check those out in our playlist and keep up with the latest stuff here on Datafied. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.